Hello, TikTok family. I wanted to have a very transparent conversation with some mothers out there. And I'm specifically speaking to mothers who have children who are battling mental health issues. About 2 years ago, actually, be 2 years, July 12th, my son, my youngest son, he's 18 now. He lost 3 friends in a car accident. They all passed at the same time together in a car accident. And it was devastating. He called my husband at work and he was so hysterical. My husband had to leave work and come home. And I had noticed, like, over the past 2 years, even before, I would say like toward the end of middle school, there was like a shift in his mood. And as a mother, you don't think the first thing is mental illness or depression. But as time went on, I began to see that this was a little more than just having a bad day. And I don't know if you've ever tried to get your child services, mental health services. It's not easy. You got to make a lot of phone calls. You got to have patience, because it's not that easy to say, oh, I have a child who has some mental health issues. Can I get him therapy? Can I possibly get him evaluated on medication? It's not that easy. But God gave me favor, and I was able to get him with a counselor. And, kids these days, someone on this app said that there were older women trying to keep up with the younger women or feeling intimidated. I am happy to be the age that I am. This generation has so much that they're dealing with. I wouldn't even want to be bothered with it. So I'm very comfortable in my skin as a 52-year-old woman. So whoever said that is not true. We are not in competition with you. Thank you very much. But I digress. So it's been a really rough couple of years with my son, because it was a traumatic experience for his 3 friends to be killed in a car accident at the same time. So 2022, COVID was still going on. There was still the isolation in schools and the mask, and he had to go to 3 different funerals. And we tried to be there to support him, but there was a lot of times he didn't want to talk to us. He would go in his room, close the door. And if I could be quite honest, there have been times where me and my husband would just go in the room to make sure he was okay. And we're believers, we're Christians. We know that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and spirits. So when he was not home, I would go in his room, I would pray, I would do warfare. And it seemed like sometimes we'd take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. But he has definitely improved. He's learning how to process his emotions. He's learning how to communicate without the anger, because I didn't know anything about mental health. We grew up, you got food, you got clothing, you got it all. But that's not true. This generation has a lot more than we had, but then they also battle things that we have no idea what they're battling. So I started to listen to some of the music that he was listening to, and I'm like, this music is depressing. I mean, I come from the old school era, Salt and Pepper, Heavy D, just Run DMC, just like when rap was fun and they told stories. But this rap that these kids listen to these days is so depressing. They talk about wanting to hurt themselves. They talk about drugs. They talk about sex. And my pastor said that you can tell where a generation is by their music. And these rappers who are supposedly have so much to live for. They got money, they got women, they got jewelry. But then you listen to their songs and they talk about not wanting to be here. And I said, this music is depressing. And then on top of that, the rappers that the kids idolize, they don't live. Every time you turn around, they don't live. They're not living long lives. They are going to the grave in their teens, in their early 20s. They're not living long lives at all. So I said all of that to say that if you've never experienced that, you kind of feel like lonely. You kind of feel like nobody understands like what you're going through. Then you question your parenting skills. Well, maybe if I was a better parent, you know, he wouldn't be going through this, or she wouldn't be going through that. But I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and got some help for my son. But at the end of the day, he had to be the one who realized that he needed help. He had to be the one to realize that he needed to talk to someone. And me as a parent, the only thing, and not that it's the last thing, but we have to pray, because he's 18 now. I can't even make a doctor's appointment for him. I can't call CVS to fill prescriptions. He's 18. He's considered an adult. If you're not on HIPAA, they don't tell you nothing. But yesterday was a very great milestone. He graduated high school, and I was saying, Lord, he's been through so much these last couple of years, just acting out, getting in trouble in school, fighting with his older brother. It just was times where I would be like, Lord, please, I don't want to come home to no drama, because it's like the least little thing would set him off. But I had people that I trusted praying, pulling down strongholds, binding the enemy over his mind. And I really didn't talk to my family too much about it because, I had mentioned to one of my relatives that he was battling depression and he was on medication. And the way they reacted made me feel this big, like, what? It was like a crime. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Let my son just be depressed and not do anything about it? And after that, I said, I'm not speaking to that particular person about this anymore. And I just spoke to people that can relate, because unless you walked in somebody's shoes, you have no idea what they're going through. So I told my son, we have to have emotional check-ins. If I come into your room and I just start talking to you, asking you how you're feeling, I'm not being nosy. I'm just trying to gauge where he is emotionally and mentally. So to see him in his graduation gown and cap yesterday was like, it just made me feel so good, because he's looking forward to things in life. He's seeing a future, and and is everything perfect? Absolutely not. But I see change. So I'm just here to encourage you moms who have children that are battling mental health. We have to talk about this stuff. If we don't talk about it, it gets nowhere. We can't sweep under the carpet certain things. It just can't be done, because what is not talked about isn't dealt with. So I'm here to say publicly to whoever's listening that if you have a child battling mental health issues, I feel your pain, and I know what it's like. But I also know that there's a God who answers prayer. There's a God who will protect our children. There's a God that will change situations. So, my son graduated yesterday, and I'm very happy. It was something that I was like, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, because he was going up against so much mentally. But he did it, and I'm happy. And, God is with us, and he is the restorer of the mind. He restores our mind. He restores our soul. So keep praying for your children.